Picture this, the most dominant pickleball player on the planet, a man with over 123 PPA Tour titles, 21 Triple Crowns, and a singles winning streak that once stretched to 108 consecutive matches, just made a decision that nobody in the pickleball world saw coming. Ben Johns is heading back to Vietnam, but this time, the man standing beside him on the men's doubles court will not be his brother Colin. It will be 20-year-old Gabriel Tardio. And if you stick around to the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this partnership could reshape the entire PPA Tour Asia season and what it signals about the future of professional pickleball. Let me take you back. If you follow pickleball at all, you already know the name Ben Johns. Born on March 18, 1999 in Gaithersburg, Maryland, Johns picked up a paddle as a teenager and turned professional in 2016, before most people in America had even heard the word pickleball. He attended the University of Maryland, but it did not take long before the sport consumed his life entirely. By his early 20s, he was already being called the greatest pickleball player of all time. And when you look at the numbers, it is hard to argue otherwise. Over 123 PPA Tour titles, 21 Triple Crowns, meaning he won singles, men's doubles, and mixed doubles at the same tournament 21 separate times. A 108-match winning streak in singles that may never be broken. As of March 2026, he holds a DUPR rating of 7.112, the highest in the world. He is ranked #1 in mixed doubles, #1 in men's doubles, and #2 in singles by the PPA. He has competed in over 850 professional matches across more than 114 tournaments. His career win rate sits at 86.4% across 850 matches. Let that sink in for a moment. That is not a normal win rate. That is not a normal career. Ben Johns is, statistically, the most successful professional pickleball player who has ever lived. But the number that truly defined Ben Johns for the longest time was not any of those. It was the number 2, as in two brothers. The Johns brothers, Ben and Colin, built the most dominant men's doubles partnership in the history of pickleball. From 2021 through 2024, the two brothers racked up 43 medals and 33 gold titles together as a team. No other partnership in the sport comes remotely close. The next closest competitor in career golds, Matt Wright, has 8 total. The next closest teams, Fraser and Johnson with 10 golds, Newman and Wright with 8, are not even in the same conversation. The Johns brothers were not just the best men's doubles team. They were a dynasty in every sense of the word. Their chemistry on the court was almost telepathic. Colin covered the left side with a patience and consistency that gave Ben total freedom to attack from the right. They anticipated each other's movements without looking. They communicated in half glances and subtle shifts of weight. They had grown up together, trained together, traveled together, won together. It was the kind of partnership that fans assumed would last for the rest of their careers, a decade at least, maybe longer. And then, heading into 2025, they announced the split. The news hit the pickleball community like a thunderclap. Ben Johns and Colin Johns would no longer compete together as a men's doubles team. The public reasons were professional, a mutual desire to explore new partnerships, to challenge themselves individually, to grow as separate competitors. But the timing raised serious eyebrows among those who follow the sport closely. The men's doubles field was evolving at a breakneck pace. Younger players were entering the scene, faster, more athletic, more aggressive, with playing styles forged in the modern era of pickleball. And Ben Johns, who has always been as much a strategist off the court as he is on it, appeared to be positioning himself for the next chapter. That next chapter now has a name: Gabriel Tardio. Here is what just happened. The PPA Tour Asia officially announced that Ben Johns will headline the MB Hanoi Cup, taking place from April 1st through 5th, 2026 at the My Dinh Indoor Athletics Arena in Hanoi, Vietnam. This is the season opening event for PPA Tour Asia, and it is being described as the biggest and most competitive PPA Tour Asia tournament ever assembled, with the deepest and strongest field in the tour's history. The player roster is stacked with elite talent. Names like Caitlin Christian, Tyra Black, Hayden Patriquin, Federico Stockscrewed, all confirmed to compete. But the story everyone is talking about? Ben Johns will be partnering with Gabriel Tardio in men's doubles. This is not the first time Johns has traveled to Vietnam for a PPA Tour Asia event. He competed in the inaugural season and clearly came away impressed with the venue, the crowds, and the growing pickleball culture in Southeast Asia. But this second trip feels completely different. The stakes are higher, the field is significantly deeper. And the partner standing beside him is not his brother. He is a 20-year-old sensation with a DUPR rating of 6.922, currently ranked 5th in the world in men's doubles. Tardio is not just some promising young player tagging along for the experience. He is a legitimate force who has already proven he can compete at the highest level. Johns and Tardio have shown flashes of brilliance together on the domestic PPA Tour circuit. They reached the men's doubles final at the Carvana Mesa Cup, demolishing their quarterfinal opponents with a dominant 2-0 sweep that showcased total control and suffocating pressure from the first point to the last. They have chemistry, they have firepower. But an international stage with a different crowd, different conditions, different time zone, different energy, that is an entirely different kind of test. So why did Ben Johns choose Gabriel Tardio for this moment? Let me walk you through the 3 key factors that explain everything. The first factor is matchup and partnership dynamics. When Ben played alongside Colin, the entire strategy was built on complementary strengths. Colin was the steady anchor of the team, reliable resets, disciplined court positioning, and almost impossibly low unforced error rate. He was the rock. Ben was the weapon. He could speed up the ball from any position on the court, find angles that other players could not even visualize, and impose his will on rallies through sheer creativity and hand speed. For years, this formula was unstoppable. But as the men's doubles field grew younger and more athletic, that blueprint started to face real pressure. Teams like Hayden Patriquin and Christian Alshin brought a fundamentally different kind of energy to the court. Both players capable of finishing points, both fast enough to cover ground aggressively, both willing to take risks. The meta was shifting. The game was moving away from the traditional one attacker, one anchor model toward 2 threat partnerships where either player could be the finisher on any given rally. Gabriel Tardio fits that mold perfectly. At just 20 years old, he brings elite hand speed, explosive lateral movement, quick reflexes at the kitchen line, and the kind of fearless shot-making that you typically only see in players who grew up immersed in the modern era of competitive pickleball. With Tardio on his left side, Johns does not sacrifice his attacking identity. He gains a partner who can match it, amplify it, and create chaos from both sides of the court simultaneously. The potential ceiling of this partnership is higher than anything Johns has ever had. The question is whether they can consistently reach that ceiling when the pressure is on and the opponent has studied the tape. The second factor is mental pressure and reputation. Ben Johns carries the weight of being the greatest player in pickleball history every single time he steps onto a court. Every tournament, every match, every point, the expectation is nothing short of perfection. When he played with Colin, that pressure was shared between them, but it was also amplified by the narrative surrounding the brothers. If the Johns brothers lost, it was a headline. If they won, it was simply expected. There was never any middle ground. The scrutiny was relentless. By partnering with Tardio, Johns subtly but significantly shifts the entire dynamic. Tardio is the young gun, the rising star, the player with everything to prove and absolutely nothing to lose. If they drop a tight match at the MB Hanoi Cup, the narrative becomes about a new partnership still finding its rhythm, not about a dynasty in decline. If they win, Johns gets credit for mentoring and elevating yet another young talent to championship caliber, while Tardio announces himself as a global-level competitor. It is a strategically brilliant reframing of expectations from a mental standpoint. And for Tardio himself, playing alongside the greatest player in history is simultaneously a pressure cooker and a career launchpad. How he handles the spotlight, the crowd noise, the intensity of an international event in Hanoi, that will tell us everything about his readiness for the biggest stages in the sport. The third factor is schedule, health, and environment. The PPA Tour calendar for 2026 is absolutely loaded. Between the domestic PPA Tour events, the expanding PPA Tour Asia circuit with multiple stops across the region, and the upcoming Major League Pickleball season, featuring events in Dallas, Columbus, St. Louis, and Austin, running from late May through mid-June, the physical demands on top-tier players are enormous. Ben Johns is 27 years old.
He is still firmly in his athletic prime, but intelligent workload management is critical for sustained dominance across a full season that spans multiple continents. Traveling to Vietnam for a week-long tournament in early April, then ramping up for the domestic tour and MLP, requires a doubles partner who can shoulder the physical burden on court. Someone who can take over the pace of play when fatigue creeps in during deep tournament runs. Someone with the youth and recovery capacity to handle back-to-back matches in potentially hot and humid conditions without breaking down. Gabriel Tardio, at 20 years old, checks every single one of those boxes. This partnership is not just about winning one trophy in Hanoi. It is about building a doubles combination that can sustain peak performance through an entire grueling season of global competition. Ben Johns is thinking 3 steps ahead, as he always does. And that brings us to the moment that is truly not normal about this entire story. Ben Johns choosing Gabriel Tardio over Colin Johns for a major international showcase event is, by itself, a powerful statement.
But what makes this decision resonate even more deeply is the full context. The Johns brothers spent 4 years building what many analysts and fans considered an unbreakable partnership. 33 gold titles, 43 total medals, a legacy that one prominent pickleball commentator described as unlikely to ever be broken by any future team. They were the standard. They were the measuring stick. Every other men's doubles team in the sport was evaluated based on how they compared to Ben and Colin. And yet, here we are. Ben Johns is not just moving on from that partnership, he is moving forward with visible intent and purpose. He is investing in a new doubles relationship with a player who represents the next generation of the sport. He is doing it on an international stage, in Vietnam, in front of fans across Asia who may be experiencing elite professional pickleball for the very first time. The MB Hanoi Cup is not just another tournament on Ben Johns' schedule. It is a declaration, a signal to the entire pickleball world that the future of men's doubles runs through partnerships built on speed, mutual aggression, athleticism, and dual-threat firepower, not tradition and familiarity. So what happens next? There are 2 realistic scenarios to consider as we look ahead to April. Scenario 1, the bounce-back route. Johns and Tardio arrive in Hanoi with their chemistry already building from solid domestic PPA Tour performances. They handle the travel smoothly, adjust quickly to the My Den Indoor Athletics Arena, and feed off the energy of an enthusiastic international crowd. They navigate a deep draw, reach the final, and potentially take the title. If this happens, the Johns-Tardio partnership instantly becomes the team to beat heading into the MLP season and the rest of the PPA Tour year. It would confirm that Ben Johns made the right call moving on from the brother partnership. It would establish Tardio as a legitimate top 3 doubles player in the world. And it would send a clear message to every other team on tour: this is the new standard. The conditions for this scenario: Johns needs to arrive healthy and sharp after the long trip, and Tardio needs to handle the pressure of performing in front of an international audience in what may be his first major overseas event. Scenario 2, the stumble. The new partnership hits unexpected friction in Hanoi. Maybe the climate adjustment is tougher than anticipated. Maybe the travel fatigue catches up with one or both of them. Maybe a dangerous team like Patrickin and Alshon, or a hungry international pairing with nothing to lose, catches them off guard in an early round. An early exit would not be a career disaster by any means, but it would raise legitimate questions about whether Tardio is truly ready for the biggest international stages and whether Johns might need a more seasoned, experienced partner for high-stakes events outside the United States. The conditions for this: a bracket that throws them against a dangerous opponent before they have found their rhythm, combined with the natural adjustment challenges of a new venue, new country, and 6-figure stakes. Regardless of which scenario plays out, the MB Hanoi Cup from April 1st through 5th will be the first real high-pressure test of the Johns-Tardio partnership under international conditions. The results will directly impact PPA Tour Asia rankings. They will influence how MLP teams evaluate their rosters heading into the summer, and they will shape how the entire pickleball world views the trajectory of men's doubles for the second half of 2026 and beyond. Here is my prediction.
I believe Ben Johns and Gabriel Tardio will reach at least the semifinals in Hanoi, and I think there is a very strong chance they take home the gold.
Johns is too intelligent, too well prepared, and too fiercely motivated to let an international debut with a new partner go sideways. He will have studied every potential matchup in that draw. He will have game planned for the conditions, the travel, and the crowd. And Tardio has demonstrated in every big moment so far on the domestic tour that he does not shrink. He rises. This could be the tournament where the pickleball world officially recognizes that the Ben Johns era is not ending. It is evolving, and it might be more dangerous than ever. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Ben Johns made the right call partnering with Gabriel Tardio instead of Colin Johns for the MB Hanoi Cup? Drop your answer in the comments, yes or no, and tell me why you think so. And if you are as excited about PPA Tour Asia 2026 as I am, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss a single update when the brackets drop and the results start pouring in from Hanoi. I will see you in the next one.